Hi, and welcome to Comedy Recapped. Today we'll be talking about the 1981 comedy titled Full Moon High. This film follows the story of Tony Walker, a talented high school football player who becomes a werewolf after a trip to Romania. Beware, spoilers ahead. We meet Tony Walker, a popular jock in high school who lives with his father. It's just the two of them, as his mother walked out on his father after he had an affair with the nanny, who soon after walked out on them too. The father and son have a talk, and Tony admits that he doesn't have many memories of his mother anymore. The two of them go on an international trip to Romania. Tony quickly meets a fortune teller who looks over his palm line in awe and explains to him he's going to be cursed to live forever as a werewolf and travel the world. When he asks for more information, she shoos him away and goes on about her day. Tony doesn't take this seriously until later one night when he walks up to a farm. He's looking for help, but no one seems to be around. When his back is turned outside the barn, he is attacked in the dark by a werewolf. While maimed and with his clothes in shreds, he drags himself back home, where he realizes his hair is growing much faster than usual as he tries to shave it down. The father and son decide to get the heck out of that country and return home. On the plane, Tony thinks he has a case of the bubble guts, so he heads to the bathroom, noticing even more strange changes to his body on the walk there. Meanwhile, two hijackers blindfold everyone on the plane. Tony comes out and hides behind a chair. When the hijackers go to investigate, he pounces on them. Everyone panics, but the hijackers are subdued. Back home, Tony isn't feeling himself. He's clearly cursed, being followed by the sound of a violinist, which is messing up his ability to play football. His girlfriend, Janie, tries to make an advance at him, but he complains about it being his time of the month and shuffles away from her. That night, he transforms once again into a werewolf. With a penchant for nipping at the rear ends of his prey, he chases all the women of the town. Well, mostly all women. Next, we see his father has put out dog food for the family dog, but Tony finds it and decides to help himself. This upsets the dog, who howls after him. When the dog approaches Tony, he is irritable and growls at the dog while running off to his bedroom, trying to get his father to leave him alone. Instead, his father follows him upstairs and chastises him for being insubordinate and letting his grades fall. Unfortunately, this argument falls on the full moon, and Tony loses control. He chases his father in wolf form across the house and down into their specialty-made Cold War-era bunker. Once locked inside, his father fires a single shot, only to have it ricochet off the walls, eventually causing his demise. He is given a brief funeral, which doesn't exactly go as smoothly as it should. Tony decides to drop out of high school, as he has an insatiable desire to travel. While on the bus, he's chased by Janie, who begs him to stay or let her come along. At night, he attacks the bus driver and other patrons and steals the bus to help him escape. Years go by, and Tony is alone for a long time. He regrets decades later not ever finishing school and playing in the big football game against a local rival. So, having not aged a single day, Tony makes it back home and re-enrolls in high school, fulfilling the other half of the prophecy. Tony's high school is now in total disrepair, having fallen apart over the years and succumbed to massive amounts of graffiti. One of the older faculty members spies on him with a pair of binoculars and notes that he looks exactly like an old student he had back in the day. Meanwhile, a new, nervous teacher named Miss Montgomery is trying to fit in, despite having undergone severe harassment at her former schools. When she tries to walk to her class, she's harassed by several loud students as she cowers in fear from them. To get away, she runs into the women's bathroom, where she's enveloped in cigarette smoke from some not-so-friendly girls. Out of the bathroom, she runs into Tony, who's much less threatening than the rest of the school, not immediately harassing her. He explains that he's back to fill in the gaps when his father dropped out, pretending he's back to do that for him, and masking his own immortality. She seems impressed, but gives him a warning of the school's wild nature. saying to guard his belongings and watch his back. After school, Tony is approached by local sheriffs while trying to put the house back together at his old childhood home. They assume someone was trespassing on the property, and he gives them the same story he gave the teacher, that he's the son of Tony Walker. It turns out to be his high school buddy, Flynn, who believes the story, but remarks he looks a lot like his dad. He explains he plans on living in the home rather than selling it. Flynn, in turn, invites him over to have dinner with him and his wife, Janie, who he claims would really like to see him. Meanwhile, Flynn and Janie have raised a disappointing son who recounts watching a new player on the football team who was so good he couldn't believe it. They share memories of Tony, who Janie laments was much more popular than their son is. While they're talking, Flynn warns Janie to stay away from who he believes is Tony's son, which upsets her as she refuses to be told who to see, adding that if Tony had never left, their son would never have been born. Tony has a moment alone at his father's grave, coming to terms with the loss after all of these years. He explains how his life has gone and the struggles he's had. As he goes to say goodbye, a hand reaches up out of the dirt and grabs him, scaring him away while offering an unpleasant hand gesture. Later, Tony attends a high school dance in wolf form. He cuts the lights and tries to blend in. It only takes a moment before everyone flees in panic. In all of the confusion, cops tackle a boy in a gorilla suit outside of school, but it's not Tony. It's Flynn and Janie's son. After escaping the school, Tony as a wolf gets into a taxi, and as it turns out, the driver is the same bus driver he attacked all those years ago. The next day, Tony is fed up and decides to spill his secret to a beautiful blonde student in hope that she would film his transformation. Somehow, she is into him and agrees to film later that night. This talk is interrupted by Janie, who tells him she knows who he is and demands he meet her at a later time. Before his date with Janie, he meets up with his new blonde friend. She ties him to the bed and attempts to jostle the wolf out of him, and it works. She seems very interested and somewhat turned on. Lucky for her, Tony doesn't want to harm her and allows her to get close to him. Afterward, Tony is seen going on a date with Janie, who doesn't seem deterred by his condition or his age, and simply wants to know more about it, clearly still smitten with him after all these years. The dinner is going along fine until he's once again haunted by the cursed violinist filling his ears, causing him to panic and flee. He meets up with his new girlfriend, who we now know has a thing for werewolves. She begs Tony to go all the way with her in human form just once, to which he happily obliges. We cut to Sheriff Flynn requesting some .38 caliber silver bullets be forged by Mr. Miyagi, who agrees. Next, we see Tony the Wolf sneaking up the stairs to the bedroom of Miss Montgomery. He pounces on as he waits on hold with 911. The next day, Tony's film is shown for all to see and he's promptly arrested for his crimes committed as a wolf. Tony, fully turned into a wolf, escapes prison just in time to participate in his high school's football game, fulfilling his lifelong dream. He's then gunned down by a fearless psychiatrist. However, Tony survives due to a technicality. The bullet wasn't pure silver, as inflation has caused the cost of silver to go up. In the end, Tony meets Miss Montgomery in the woods, and she too is now a werewolf. They can both be werewolves together and raise a little werewolf family. And that's going to wrap things up for today. Hopefully, you've enjoyed this recap as much as we did. If you like the video and want to look into other movies with us, then be sure to subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on. That way, you won't miss a single video.